Welcome back to Deep Dive English. Today we are learning how to be polite and never sound rude again.
That is probably the most crucial lesson for anyone trying to master social fluency in English.
I can believe that.
Because the challenge isn't really the vocabulary, it's the culture that's, embedded right in the grammar.
Absolutely. For anyone learning English, especially if your first language values being very direct, well, politeness can be a minefield. You translate a request perfectly, word for word, and suddenly the other person looks at you like you just, I don't know, gave him an order.
It's what we call the politeness gap. And our source material for today's deep dive gets right into this. And it's aimed right at that B1-B2 learner.
Someone who's ready to go beyond just being understood.
Exactly, to being socially successful. The fundamental difference is that English relies so heavily on what we call indirect language. It's how we navigate social situations smoothly.
So it creates a kind of buffer.
Yeah, you could say that. It creates psychological space, and it reduces social pressure.
Okay, let's unpack this and make it immediately useful for everyone listening. Our mission today is to find those specific phrases, those tools, that make the difference between an order and a request.
Right, and how to avoid what the sources call the pitfall of directness.
And to really show this pitfall, our source gives us this almost painful scenario with a learner named Mike.
Ah, yes, Mike. He's feeling confident. He steps up to the cafe counter, and, well, he delivers a request based on a very direct translation from his own language.
So Mike walks up, ready for his morning coffee, and he says,
"I want coffee."
"Oof." I can just feel the tension from the server, even though that sentence is grammatically perfect and it communicates the need. It just feels incredibly blunt.
Confrontational, almost.
Yes.
And that's the core issue. If you translate "I want coffee" directly from a language where that's just a neutral statement of desire, it's fine. But in English,
It's different.
it's so different. That level of directness, starting with "I want," sounds like an order. The source material is explicit. It sounds like you're speaking to a servant.
A servant. Wow. So you're not trying to be bossy, but the language itself, the structure, makes you sound that way.
Precisely. The language implies the other person just exists to fulfill your immediate need, and that creates friction.
Unnecessary friction. So
Yeah.
how do we fix this?
Okay, this brings us to what our guide calls Rule 3. We have to shift away from these definite statements like "I want" and introduce what we call modal verbs of politeness.
This is where we bring out the heavy hitters. I mean, if you only remember 3 words from this entire deep dive, let them be these 3.
These are the ones. The 3 core words, the essential modal verbs, are could, would, and may.
Could, would, and may.
They are the power players. They instantly create this sort of hypothetical, non-demanding distance. You're asking permission instead of stating a demand.
Okay, let's fix Mike's coffee order right now instead of "I want coffee."
We introduce that conditionality. The key is to ask if it's possible to get something, or to state a preference that could, theoretically be denied.
So you can say,
"Could I have a coffee, please?" That's asking about possibility. Or to state your preference politely, you use "would like."
"I would like a coffee, please."
Perfect.
Now, I noticed you used "would like." Would is the past tense of will. Why does using the past tense here make it more polite? That seems a little strange.
That's a phenomenal question, and it really gets to the psychology of all this. We use the past tense here, would or could, to create what we call psychological distance.
Okay.
The request is no longer immediate. It's not "I will have coffee now." By using would, we make the desire conditional, almost hypothetical.
So it's like saying, if it's not too much trouble.
Exactly. It implies if everything aligns, socially and practically, this is my preference. It just makes the desire feel less demanding.
That's a brilliant insight. You're shifting the birdie. You're asking, is this possible? Not commanding, do this now.
And you can use this anywhere, not just in a cafe. If you need help with a heavy box, you don't say, "Help me with this box." You'd say, "Would you be able to give me a hand with this?" Or, even more indirect, "I was wondering if you could possibly help me."
Look at all those layers of distance you're building in there.
It changes the whole tone. It goes from being transactional to cooperative.
Okay, so we've mastered getting what we want politely. But life isn't always that simple. We have to navigate more difficult conversations. Correcting someone or delivering bad news.
Softening the blow.
Yes, Section 3, softening the blow. Let's start with just saying no. Someone asks you for a favor and you can't do it. A simple no can feel like a social explosion.
It really can, especially with no explanation.
So what's our first tool? The polite refusal. What's the key phrase here?
The gold standard phrase, the one that works almost every time, is, I'm afraid I can't.
I'm afraid. It's so interesting because you're not actually scared.
No, not at all. It's a cultural signal. It implies regret. You're basically apologizing in advance for the negative information you're about to give.
So you're softening the blow.
You're softening the blow. It shows empathy. It shifts the feeling from, I refuse you, to, I regret that circumstances prevent me from helping. You're preserving the relationship.
So instead of, no, I won't do that, it's, I'm afraid I can't make it to your party. It frames it as an unfortunate situation, not a personal rejection.
That's it, exactly. And while we're on this, we should probably mention the really indirect way of asking for something. Would you mind?
Oh, that's advanced level politeness. Would you mind closing the window?
Right. You're asking if they have an objection to doing it. So if they say, no, I wouldn't mind, they mean, yes, I'll do it.
That can be so confusing for learners.
It's complex, but it's the ultimate polite request. It puts all the focus on the other person's comfort, not your own need.
Okay, tool number 2 for softening things. What our sources call softeners, or maybe more formally, hedging language.
Yes. This is where we use specific words to make negative information less jarring.
Like what kind of words?
Words like, I think, maybe, or a little. They're crucial because when you state something as an absolute fact, like, that proposal is bad, you're inviting a fight.
But when you hedge...
You invite discussion. You share responsibility for the statement.
Okay, let's take a classic example. Price. The direct statement is, it's expensive.
And that feels like a final judgment, doesn't it? It can really hurt the relationship, especially in business.
So the softened version would be...
I think it's a little expensive.
Ah, that little phrase, a little, it just reduces the negativity. It suggests it's maybe only slightly too expensive, or just in my opinion.
And adding I think is key. It turns a fact into an opinion. I think that deadline is too tight. By framing it that way, you invite the other person to explain their thinking.
You keep the conversation going.
You manage the relationship alongside the facts.
Which brings us perfectly to our next section. This is the really high-stakes stuff. Correcting someone.
Oh, yeah.
This is where so many learners just freeze, because the ultimate direct disaster is saying,
and you are wrong.
Don't say it.
Never say it. You are challenging their competence, their integrity, everything. You have to avoid that phrase at all costs.
So let's imagine this scene. You're in a meeting, a colleague says something you know is inaccurate. How do you disagree without completely invalidating them?
Okay, we need phrases that express doubt while, protecting their professional standing. The sources give us a few really great alternatives.
Let's hear them.
First, if you just have a different perspective, you can say, I see it differently.
I see it differently. I like that. It acknowledges they have a view, and you're just presenting another one.
Exactly. It's side by side, not a head-to-head confrontation. Second, if you need to challenge a fact but want to be cautious, you can use, I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure about that. That's fantastic. It puts the uncertainty on you.
Right.
Like maybe you're the one who needs to check your facts, which is much safer.
It is. And third, for a really high-stakes disagreement where you have to be clear but respectful, you can use a strong softener up front.
Which would be?
With respect, I have to disagree.
With respect. That's the key. You acknowledge their status and then, I have to disagree. Make it sound like a necessity, not an attack.
That's the synthesis of this entire section. All these techniques, they're about preserving social harmony. You want to sound a little uncertain or like you're just sharing an opinion.
The goal is always to keep the conversation flowing.
And the relationship intact. It's less about grammar rules and more about using language to manage relationships.
These small phrases are really investments in goodwill.
That is the perfect way to put it.
Okay, let's do a quick summary. The 4 major tools we covered today that you can use immediately. Your personal cheat sheet for polite English.
Let's do it.
Number 1, shifting from that demanding I want to the much softer could I have or would I have.
Using those modal verbs of politeness.
Number 2, the soft refusal. When you have to say no, you say,
I'm afraid I can't. It expresses that necessary regret.
3, using hedging language. Those little softeners like a little or I think.
To gently introduce negative statements and invite dialogue.
And finally, number 4, in advanced situations, avoid you are wrong. Instead, you politely state your different view with phrases like,
I see it differently, or I'm not sure about that.
That is a genuinely transformative toolkit. It can move your English from just being technically correct to being socially effective.
And here's the final thought I'd like to leave you with to take into your next English conversation. The purpose of all this indirect language, it isn't about being tricky, it's about cultural empathy.
Hmm.
So next time you feel the urge to say something very direct, just pause for a second. Ask yourself this question. Am I giving an order or am I asking a favor?
That's the critical filter, isn't it? Because if you're asking a favor, which almost every request is, really, that question will automatically make you reach for those magic words.
Could, would, or may. Use the tool, build the relationship, and you will find your English fluency just improves exponentially.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the art of politeness. We'll catch you next time.